At number 10, the War of 1812. The War of 1812 was a significant event that took place between the United States and Great Britain from 1812 to 1815. The British impressment and trade on the seas is the main reason why James Madison and the Warhawks declared war. A major event during the war is the Battle of New Orleans. This was a significant event as it was a resounding victory for the United States, led by Major General Andrew Jackson. The Treaty of Ghent ended the war in 1815. The War of 1812 was significant as it was the first war on American soil and it led to the era of good feelings. At number 9, the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was from 1955 to 1975 and was a fight to stop the spread of communism in South Vietnam. The United States joined the war when Congress gave LBJ a blank check in the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, in which to use as much power to fight in Vietnam. Then, a major event during the war was the Tet Offensive. But, despite the counterattack by the United States and South Vietnamese, the United States public saw the Tet Offensive as a loss because the North Vietnamese did not surrender. Later, in early of 1973, Richard Nixon pulls the United States out of Vietnam, which would later lead to the end of the war. Then, the war would officially end with the Paris Peace Accords, in which peace was established throughout Vietnam.
Man, the things I do to go back home to Dallas, Texas, see my wife, little baby girl, Susan. It's
Also during the Vietnam War was the Civil Rights Movement, in which African Americans would fight for equal rights. Major significant events are the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibited segregation in all places. Then, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which prohibited discrimination in voting. Then, the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which focused on housing. And finally, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, which motivated all of the Civil Rights Acts. At number 8, the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana Purchase was an event in American history in 1803 where the U.S. bought a portion of territory from the French for $15 million, in which it doubled the size of the country. This will lead to the expansion out west, as this was a significant moment in American history.
Pleasure is always. Pleasure is always. Alrighty. Let's get right to the point.
Yeah.
So, do you really want all that land?
I mean, I was gonna say something else, but yeah, I want the land, yeah.
Well, I gotta be honest. I don't want it anymore. So,
Okay.
just take it. Just take it.
We
We don't want it.
Alright, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
That was quick.
Have a nice one.
Have a good day, so.
At number 7, the Civil War. The Civil War was a battle between the Confederate South and the North between 1861 to 1865. The war was based on slavery, as there are a lot of causes of the war that made the tensions between the North and South build, such as the Compromise of 1820, Bleeding Kansas, Compromise of 1850, and more. After the election of 1860, in which Abraham Lincoln won without getting a single vote from the South, the South seceded from the Union, as will lead to the Civil War.
This is the South, and I want slavery.
President Lincoln said he doesn't want slavery.
Well, I don't give a shit about Lincoln.
What'd you just say?
You heard me.
What'd you say?
I don't care about Lincoln.
You want to fight for it?
I'm gonna just leave the Union.
Hell, let's fight right now.
The start of the Civil War started at Fort Sumner, in which it signified the start of the war. Some major battles in the war are the Battle of Bull Run, which was the first scale battle of the war, the Battle of Antietam, which was the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, and then the most significant battle, the Battle of Gettysburg, in which later Lincoln would give his famous Gettysburg Address. The Civil War would end with the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, and which would lead to the Reconstruction era. At number 6, the Mexican-American War. The Mexican-American War was a conflict between the United States and Mexico. It was fought between 1846 to 1848. The war started with the border disputes with Mexico. President James K. Polk sent troops to help settle the argument. Supposedly, a soldier was killed, an American soldier, by a Mexican soldier, in which the war had begun.
No Moderado, no Crosso, muy queso over Odo.
What's going on here? What are you doing? Lay down.
I don't know what's wrong,
Oh, he just shot him! He just shot him!
He just shot it! Help! Help! Help him!
After 2 years of battling, the war was officially over. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed, as it officially ended the war, in which the U.S. got the other third of the country, and then later, the Gadsden Purchase, which would get the rest of the land that we didn't get from the treaty. With these new lands, and with the annexation of Texas, arguments were made whether they should be a slave or free state. This led to the Compromise of 1850, then arguments over slavery, and this was the main reason that led to the Civil War. At number 5, Reconstruction. Reconstruction was a time period after the Civil War in which America began to rebuild the South. The most significant event in the Reconstruction era are the Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th. But with the abolishing of slavery, the South did not like the amendments, so they made black codes, Jim Crow laws, and the South saw the rise of the KKK.
This is the South, and I want my slave back.
Well, just guess what? You can't. The Reconstruction Amendment said you can't, and slavery is illegal.
You know what? You know what? I'm gonna go get the KKK, some Jim Crow laws, and the black codes.
Well, I'm kind of tired of fighting after the Civil War, so, you can do that, but just like keep it on the low, okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Another important event in Reconstruction is the Reconstruction Act of 1867, in which the South was divided into 5 military districts. During this time, Andrew Johnson was president, but with him in the Congress, things were not clear, as he violated the Tenure Office Act, in which he got impeached. Then, Reconstruction ended with the Compromise of 1877, which took those 5 military districts out of the South, and of course, took the end of Reconstruction. At number 4, the Cold War. The Cold War was a tense time period between 1945 to the early 1990s. The main goal for the United States was to stop the spread of communism. Fear of communism spread throughout the country, as McCarthyism would be popular during the Cold War. Joseph McCarthy made the Hollywood 10, which was a list of stars that were thought to be communists.
Yo! What's that?
Wiz Khalifa, bro. You got a problem with this?
Where's the who? Where's the communism? This is communism you're listening to.
Bro.
What are you listening to?
Wiz
You
Khalifa.
don't listen to this communist, okay?
You don't like the thrill?
No, this is communism.
Well,
What are you doing? My God, bro.
A significant part during the Cold War is the Cuban Missile Crisis, which was a 6-day standoff between the Soviet Union and was the closest America has ever gone to a nuclear war. Another significant event is the Vietnam War. Then, the Cold War ended in 1989 with the fall of the Soviet Union. At number 3, the American Revolution. The American Revolution occurred between 1775 and 1783. It was a conflict fought between Great Britain and the 13 colonies of North America. The revolution was rooted in a series of grievances held by the American colonists against British rules, such as the Tea Act, the Intolerable and Coercive Acts, Townshend Act, and the Stamp Act.
That was my tea, bro.
The Revolutionary War began with the first shots heard around the world at the battles of Lexington and Concord in April of 1775. A key turning point in the war included the Battle of Saratoga in 1775, which resulted in a major victory for the American forces and led to France formally entering the war on the side of the Americans. Then, to end the war, the Battle of Yorktown in 1781. This decisive victory for the Americans and French forces led to the surrender of British General Cornwallis, effectively ending major hostilities. Then, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, officially recognizing the United States as an independent nation and outlining its boundaries. The war conclusion marked the birth of a new nation, with American colonies having successfully secured their independence from Britain. At number 2, World War I. World War I was also known as the Great War, and was a global conflict that took place from 1914 to 1918. It was triggered by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in June of 1914. The war was primarily fought between the Allies, such as France, Britain, Russia, and later the United States, and they fought against the Central Powers, led by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. The war was characterized by massive casualties, the use of new technologies, and trench warfare. In 1917, the United States entered the war by the Zimmerman Telegram. Then, in 1918, after a series of successful offensive by the Allies, it led to Germany's surrender. The war officially ended with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, which imposed harsh conditions on Germany and its allies.
Whew, trench warfare is horrible.
Pew 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 pew.
And finally, number 1, World War II. World War II is fought between the Axis and Allied powers between 1939 and 1945. The Axis power consisted of Germany, Italy, and Japan, and the Allied powers consisted of the United States, Great Britain, and the Soviet Union. Some major events in World War II consist of the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Battle of Midway, the Battle of Stalingrad, and the dropping and making of the atomic bombs. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese led an attack on Pearl Harbor and destroyed and damaged most of the ships. This would leave the United States filled with anger, as they would later then declare war and join World War II. Next, the Battle of Midway. This was one of the most important battles in the Pacific Theater, as it was a turning point in the war and was the first major victory for the Allies in the Pacific. Next, the Battle of Stalingrad. This was also significant and was also a turning point in the war, as it stopped the German advance to the Soviet Union, pushed them back in favor of the Allies. Finally, the dropping and making of the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project produced both of these bombs, as they later chose Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They would drop it on August 6, 1945 and August 9, 1945. After, the Japanese would officially surrender and would end World War II.
Yo, what up, man?
What's up, bro? How's work?
Today cannot get any worse. My wife left me, she took the kids, and I just got fired.
Damn. You about the Americans, though?
Yeah, what happened?
Thinking that atomic bomb. It's all over the news.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What's that? It's getting kind of closer.
Huh. It's pretty big.
Yeah.